Hello and welcome to Introduction to Meditation. This is week 8. I'm thrilled you're here. The weather's getting a little nicer. Some of the rules are getting relaxed, but you're still here. So thank you for joining. So we're in week 8. We've spent quite a lot of time over the last 7 weeks looking at different techniques, looking at the building blocks of meditation, looking at how to do it, looking at different ways of doing it, looking in detail at, what we might focus on in terms of curiosity, non-judgment, focus, non-striving, things like that. And now we are into my wheelhouse, which is, why do we do this thing? So I know traditionally everybody comes to meditation because they want to feel a bit better. You want to feel less stressed. You want to feel less anxious. You want to feel more relaxed. Yeah, I get it. And hopefully you've experienced some of that. And now we get to find out that there's actually a lot more than that. So for the last few weeks, we're really going to hone in on why. And why we meditate as much more than just stress or relaxation or something like that. This is where I think it can change the world. It certainly can change our world anyway. And our world is the world, in a way. Anyway, before we get into all of that, let's start, as we're always going to start, with some meditation. So just invite you to take your seat. I'll invite you to be comfortable, but not too comfortable, so that you can focus. Sitting up nice and straight, and take a nice deep breath in, all the way in. Then let it all the way out, completely emptying your lungs. Now, I'd like you to do that again. This time, just hold it at the top for a moment. So take a nice deep breath in. Hold it for a moment. And then let it out very slowly. We're just starting to orient our attention and our focus towards our breathing. And when you get to the bottom, let's do that one more time. So nice deep breath in, holding it at the top for a moment. And then letting it out very slowly. Just starting to get in touch with your body, noticing where you're holding any tension. Just releasing any tension and then allowing your body to rest and allow your breathing to return to normal. And just starting to rest our attention on the breathing. Noticing that we've probably carried a lot of our lives into this evening. Your concerns, your worries, your responsibilities, your to-dos. All of that stuff is on your mind. And they're all really important. But one of the things we're doing in meditation is taking a break. So all of that stuff, you can go back to all of that stuff at the end of the class in 90 minutes. Hopefully with a little more clarity, a little more calm. Maybe even a little more courage in facing up to the things we have to do. But for now, we're going to let all that stuff fall away and give ourselves this little mini vacation. Allowing our mind to simply rest and be fully absorbed by this breath. may be really focusing in on a very specific sensation. Maybe just as the air enters your nostrils or on your lips. Just becoming fully absorbed in that specific sensation. And it may not last long before the mind hijacks your attention and takes you elsewhere, and that's fine. It's normal. It's to be expected. But when you notice that's happened, just see if you can keep returning your attention back to the breath. Once again, allowing everything to fall away and become fully absorbed just in the next breath. And we'll do this for about 10 minutes. We're about 3 minutes in, and just remind you to be very gentle with yourself when you notice that your mind is taking your attention somewhere else. It's not a bad thing. It's just you have a mind, and it's trying to do its best for you. So just noticing your mind, becoming familiar with it, and then letting it go and returning your attention to the breath. And we do this over and over. Just a few minutes left. Just like to encourage you to keep persevering with this. No matter how distracted your mind is, no matter how many times it takes you away, or even if you notice it's taken you away for a long time before you notice it, that's all fine. But just keep making that little effort to keep returning your attention back to the breathing and letting everything else fall away. Just invite you to take a deep breath in and let it all the way out. Just to expand the area of your attention beyond your breathing, to also let your attention become aware of all the physical sensations in your body right now. Noticing the obvious ones, probably like what you're sitting on. But also noticing all of the little subtle ones, such as where you can feel your skin touching clothing. You may even be able to feel on your face how your skin is aware of the air. Just seeing if you can rest your attention on all those sensations, absorbed in the pure awareness of your body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Just invite you also to check in with yourself and just notice, if you can, also noticing the emotional feeling in your body right now. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, just seeing if you can be aware of it without suppressing it, trying to change it, or having a conversation with yourself about it. Just seeing if you can simply notice what that feeling is. Not necessarily trying to name it even, just allowing yourself to be aware of that emotional feeling. And take a deep breath in and let it all the way out. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and connect yourself back into your room. So here we are, week 8. Well done for making it this far. So in week 8, I'd like to explore how I think meditation can help relationships. This big aspect of our lives sometimes goes well, often doesn't. We've got relationships, obviously significant romantic relationships, maybe with a partner or a spouse. Many of you have children, or you have parents. We have family members, we have colleagues, we've got neighbors, then there's our extended communities. There are all these people that we have these interactions with. So I don't just mean relationships from a romantic point of view, but I'm going to start there and tell this slightly embarrassing story that some of you have heard before, from about 31 years ago, and it is extraordinary how the mind works and memory works. I can't remember somebody's name about 15 seconds after they've told me, but there are certain events from our lives where we can remember them in quite a lot of detail, and there is one morning, one set of 10 minutes really, from over 30 years ago that I remember in tremendous detail, because I met a girl. I was at university, it was start of my second year, and there was suddenly all this chat around the university about this girl. She was in a different college than I was, but everybody had met her had fallen madly in love with her, and I hadn't met her, and I couldn't wait to meet her. I mean, fascinated to meet this extraordinary person. I was imagining they must look like some kind of supermodel and be super charming and funny and clever, all this kind of stuff. And she'd been pointed out to me at a distance. So I'd seen her at a distance, and I could tell she was tall and slightly sort of Scandinavian looking, but I didn't really see in detail until there was this morning. It was a crisp autumn morning in October, sunny but not that warm. And I saw her on the other side of the street talking to a friend of mine. So this was my in. So I made my way across the street and introduced myself to my friend, who was not thrilled to see me because he was talking to this girl. Anyway, he was polite enough to introduce me. I pretended I had no idea who she was. And we made a little bit of chit-chat. Just nothing special. Which college are you at? What are you studying? How are you enjoying Cambridge? Where were you before? Blah, blah, blah. Nothing great. And as I'm talking to her, I have no idea what all the fuss is about. She's pretty, but not stunning. Kind of averagely dressed. I mean, she's well put together, but nothing stylish particularly. She's not particularly witty or funny, or she doesn't have anything particularly intelligent to say. We're just idle chit-chat. And I'm like sort of maybe slightly disappointed and also slightly relieved. I haven't fallen under the spell like everybody else. And then it's, we've had our little chit-chat and it's time to go, and we all make our excuses and we walk away. And as I walk away, I literally almost can't stand up. Because out of the blue, I suddenly realize I am madly in love with this girl. What did she do? And it wasn't just to me, it was to everybody who met her. She sort of had this extraordinary skill. And we had some theories. Some of them involved her being a witch or something like that. But, and that was not accurate, I don't think. I mean, she might have been, I don't know. But I don't think that was it. We had some other theories. Turns out some of them were, I think, correct. But I didn't really work it out until many, many years later. Until I was on a meditation retreat just a few years ago. Now, on a meditation retreat, it's some of you have probably been on one, but for those of you who haven't, it's a very special and weird circumstance whereby you're in silence more or less solidly for some long period of time, anywhere from like a long weekend to 30 days or longer even. In my case, I think it was about a 10-day retreat. So we were in silence for about 10 days. And it's tough. I mean, it's sort of like quarantine, except no Netflix. You don't talk to anybody. You make no eye contact with anybody. And so you're just alone with yourself, which is as awful as it sounds. You just with your mind, with all of the beauties of your mind and all of the horrors of your mind. It's just you're in this little pressure cooker with your own thoughts, your own mind, and you're trying to do the meditation, but the mind keeps coming in. And one of the things that happens is you generally spend a lot of time sitting in a meditation hall, sitting next to the same people. And most of them you don't notice, but there are some that you do, because people are people, and some people have certain habits that, if you're like me, they can get under your skin. So one of the people sitting next to me was a relatively young lady, and she was just one of those people who she just spread into the space that was available. So she had a lot of stuff. I mean, basically you just have a cushion that you're sitting on, but there are blankets in case you get cold, and then there are extra cushions in case you're uncomfortable. And she would bring cough sweets and sweaters and all sorts of stuff. So there's all this stuff, and it just sort of encroach into one space. And you'd be in the middle of a meditation. You'd actually be finding a little bit of peace and calm, and you'd be finding some of this incredible stillness that is available on these retreats. And then all of a sudden she'd unwrap a cough sweet and start biting down on it, and just all of my intolerance would come to the fore, which is part of the meditation retreat experience. So anyway, so I had this interesting ongoing battle in my mind with this person sitting next to me. And it's, that's part of it, is you just come face to face with your own intolerances and discover what's really going on there. Anyway, so the meditation retreat comes to an end. And at the end of it, they do this exercise. They don't always do this, but they did it this time, where you haven't spoken in many days. So you're going to go back into the normal world and have to go back to talking. And they want you to at least sort of warm up to this, because just in case you're a little bit bonkers or something. And so they set up this exercise whereby you're paired up with the person sitting next to you. And the way the numbers worked out and the way the seats were, it just ended up that I, of course, I am going to be paired up with the lady with all the stuff and all the cough sweets and everything else. Anyway, I sort of raised my eyebrows and, going to get on with it. I have never spoken to her before in my life. I have no idea what she's actually like or anything like that. I just know that she's a bit of a space person. Anyway, they've set up this exercise so that one person is going to take it in turns to talk. And you're just going to answer a simple question like, what are you going to try and take away from this meditation with you into the rest of your life going forward? And you get 3 minutes to talk, and the other person has to listen. And then the other person's going to get to talk, and you get to listen. But in this case, they set up the exercise in a very specific way, whereby the person who's listening is really going to have to listen. Because at the end of the 3 minutes, they're going to have to repeat back as close to word for word exactly what they heard. And the rules are very specific insofar as you don't have to remember everything, but they don't want you to try and interpret anything. So it's not what I think you said or what I think you meant at all, or that reminds me of. No. All you were going to do was try to repeat back exactly the words used, as many of them as you can remember. So you really have to listen. And we spent 10 days in silence, at which point, somewhere along the line, you do get some stillness and the mind is less. It's still active, but it doesn't have control over you quite as much when you spent that much time dealing with it. You just kind of get bored of it, really, and it sort of lets go of its hold for a while. So it's still there, but it's not holding you in quite the same way as it normally does. So you're able to really pay attention to what this person's saying. So it's interesting. So she goes first. She talks and I'm listening. And I do my best to try and repeat back word for word what she said. And then it's my turn to talk. So I tell her what I've gained from this. And then it's her turn to repeat back to me what she's heard. And she, doesn't get it all right. She doesn't remember every single word, but it's pretty close. It's pretty amazing how much she's really listened to me. She's really paid attention and she's got a lot of the words right. And she really clearly, and there is evidence that she really paid attention and really listened. And I find myself falling madly in love with this person that I know I don't even like. So what gives? And I think it is simply that when you are truly heard, when somebody really pays attention, really listens to you, there's this incredible moment of connection and intimacy, which is very powerful. And I think this girl in Cambridge, she just had this incredible skill, whether she'd worked at it or whether it was a natural for her, but she just listened to what you had to say, and she seemed to be really interested in what you had to say. She wasn't trying to interject with what she had to say. She wasn't being particularly charming or witty or impressive in any way. None of those things. She just seemed fascinated by what you had to say. And she was curious and she would ask follow-up questions and she was really listening. And that was so rare. And the truth is we all want that. We all want this connection. We all want this friendship, connection, intimacy. We want to feel connected to each other. But we go about it in completely the wrong way usually. We go about it by trying to talk, to get people interested in us, to tell funny stories, to tell impressive stories, tell people how important we are, what clever we are, what funny we are, to be relevant, in the idea that if they are impressed with us, or if they find us funny or entertaining, or they like us, then we'll create the connection. The thing is, everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's talking. And when somebody else is talking, we're not really listening. We're waiting for our segue whereby we can talk. We're looking for a hook. They'll tell a story and then we'll tell a more interesting story. And if their story goes on a bit too long, we're not listening at all to what they're saying. We're just judging them and wondering, when are they going to shut up? Why haven't they noticed that nobody's interested? So this listening thing, it's powerful. Very powerful. So, okay, great. So we listen. Okay, Justin, I can listen. I'll listen. But here's the thing. It turns out listening's really, really hard. You might think, oh, no, I can listen. I'm listening to you right now, Justin. Sort of, when I'm not looking at other screens. Yeah, I know you think you can listen, but I can prove to you that you're not very good at listening. And it is simply that when you meditate and you try and place your attention on something, you say to your mind, okay, I'm going to pay attention to my breathing. We're no good at it. We're terrible at it. The mind almost immediately wants to go somewhere else, and it doesn't even have any distractions. All it has is your breathing, and yet it finds all of these things to take your attention away. It's going to grab hold of anything and everything that it thinks you ought to be thinking about instead of just paying attention to your breathing. So when somebody's talking, it's that much harder, even than just paying attention to the breathing, because as they're talking, every word they're saying is an opportunity for your mind to jump off in a different direction. Everything they're saying will spark some thought in your head, or as they're talking, you're evaluating it, you're judging it, you're deciding whether you like it, you don't like it, you agree with it, you disagree with it, what it makes you think of them. Your mind is jumping in all sorts of different places while you're sort of listening. And you are sort of listening. You probably get the gist of what they're saying, but you absolutely know the difference between somebody sort of listening to you and somebody really listening to you. And of all the friends you've got, or of all the people you know, maybe you have hundreds of friends on Facebook, or maybe you even have thousands of friends on Facebook. But if I ask you to name who's really good at listening, you probably know one or two people. But probably only one or two people come to mind, because it's really rare and it's really difficult because our mind's all over the place. Somebody's telling you a story about maybe they went to the supermarket and this funny thing happened. And immediately you're like, oh, supermarket. Oh, yeah, I've got to go. I forgot to get kitchen roll last time. I wonder if they have kitchen roll. Oh, and I wonder if they have chicken. I haven't seemed to get any chicken for ages. Your mind is gone. Like right now. I'm guessing your mind has gone. And you're thinking about the supermarket and what they didn't have and what you need to get. Because that's what the mind does. It's very useful. It's always trying to be more useful. It doesn't rest. It doesn't focus. It doesn't concentrate. So now we know how difficult it is. And I know you think you're good at fake listening, but you know when somebody's fake listening. And so do they. And they don't call you out on it. You don't call other people out on it when they're fake listening. It's just not what's socially acceptable. We don't say, "Oi, listen to me." That would be considered egotistical or rude or something like that. So we talk and hope that some of it got through, and then they talk, and we wait until we can talk. So we love listening. It's how we create connection. But it's really hard. Nevertheless, it is a skill you can learn. And people teach it, and they teach active listening, and they sort of say, "Oh, pay attention, active listening." It's not going to work. I know it's not going to work. It's nice advice. Sounds good. But you're not giving people the skills to be able to hold focus, notice when they've lost focus, and bring the focus back again. And that's sort of the key. And that's what we're learning in meditation. If I can remind you of some time when you started dating somebody, you fell in love, like a nice early romance. And there's that incredible feeling of connection when you first meet somebody that you like. And everything you say, they're fascinated by. They're really listening. And everything they say, you're fascinated by, and you're really listening, and you're really interested. You're really curious, and you want to know about this person. And you're paying attention. And you have this incredible connection, and you fall in love. And then the feeling goes away, and they're talking, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I've heard this before. I know how the punchline ends." And so you stop listening. Or you've got something more important to do. Or you're taking that for granted, and they're talking, but really, is it that important? And the thing is that you haven't lost the feeling, and therefore you're not listening. You're not listening, and therefore you've lost the feeling. So the reason we get that feeling in the first place is by that intimate connection of really paying attention. And we can get it back. Now, I'm not saying you have to listen all the time to everything, but you can. Through meditation, you can develop this skill of paying attention, noticing when your mind has gone somewhere else, and then re-paying attention. Okay. Let's do another meditation. Enough talking, Justin. So, once again, I invite you to take your seat, sitting up straight, such that you're comfortable, but not too comfortable. And take a nice deep breath in. And let it all the way out. And once again, take a nice deep breath in, but this time hold it at the top for a moment. And let it out. And one more time. Nice deep breath in. And then hold it at the top for a moment, and then let it out very slowly. Just releasing any tension you're holding in your body. And now allow your breathing to return to normal. Just resting your attention on the breath. I've just noticed the chat that I didn't change the camera. Yeah, sorry about that. I was doing all that smiling. Oh well. So forget that, and just see if you can rest your attention just on your breathing. Just allowing everything else to fall away. Noticing that the mind really wants to think about something other than the breathing. And then just noticing that. Noticing that your mind is active and wandering. See if you can just give yourself permission to let everything fall away. And rest your attention on your breath. And now I'd like you to expand the attention so that you're still paying attention to your breathing, but you're also noticing the physical sensations of your body. The big ones and the little ones. See if you can expand your attention to notice your breathing, your body, but also any sounds you can hear other than my voice. Not trying to identify them, just becoming aware of everything that's going on in this moment right now. Seeing if you can rest simply in the complete awareness of this moment. Your breathing, your body, any sounds you can hear. Also just noticing what is the emotional feeling in your body right now, without trying to change it or suppress it or have a conversation about it. Just noticing everything that's going on in this moment. Your breathing, your body, sounds, your emotions. And when the mind hijacks your attention and drags you off somewhere else, just see if you can come back to the complete awareness of this moment. Simply resting in that awareness. Again, we'll do this for about 10 minutes. We're about 3 minutes in. Just encourage you to be very gentle with yourself. The mind is a tricky thing. It wants to wander. It wants to think about other things. And part of this exercise is just becoming familiar with its activity, noticing it, and then starting again, allowing yourself to become completely absorbed over and over and over and over again, simply in awareness of everything that's going on in the present moment. Just a few minutes left. Really encourage you, just keep persevering with this. No matter how many times your mind gets distracted, how agitated it is, just keep over and over again coming back to the next breath, the next moment. Even if you're only able to hold attention for a second or two, just keep doing that. And just invite you to take a deep breath in. And let it all the way out. Just take a moment connecting to your body. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. And when you're ready, open your eyes and connect yourself back into the room. So, sorry about that. I thought I pressed the button to bring me back to the screen, but looks like it didn't work. Sorry about that. So, relationships, meditation, week 8. Traditionally, when I teach this class, this is the bit in the class that everybody hates. People show up to class and they just want to meditate, and yeah, they're prepared to learn a little bit and indulge me by listening to me for a bit. And then in week 8, I go, okay, now we're going to do an exercise, and I make everybody talk to somebody, ideally that they don't really know very well, and listen to them. And actually do this exercise and discover how hard it is to really listen. And also what it feels like when somebody's really trying to listen, that there is a noticeable difference. Anyway, we can't do that. If we did that on Zoom, everybody would be talking and it would be awful. It'd be kind of like a lot of the Zoom calls that we're on these days. So I can't do that. So instead, I'm going to talk about the other aspect of relationships. So connection, listening, is this incredible vehicle for creating connection. But as I'm sure many of you who are in relationship during this quarantine thing have discovered, and isolation is the pressure cooker of relationships, is that no matter how much connection you have, there is conflict. With relationships comes difficulty. We are a whole pack of neuroses and insecurities and wants and needs and desires and frustrations. And when you put two of those bags of all that stuff together, not surprisingly, they don't always get along. And meditation isn't going to fix that. There's still going to be conflict. Now, I like to believe, and I'm pretty confident in this, that meditation can help prevent an awful lot of conflict. Because you are more aware, because you are better in touch with feelings and emotions and desires, they don't necessarily own you in quite the same way. And you're able to keep better track, and a lot of the mundane, low-level stuff doesn't happen. It doesn't cause the big blow-ups, doesn't cause this sort of irritation and annoyance. But I'm sure, like you, still get things go wrong. Still find aspects of huge disagreement and conflict and issues of getting hurt and all sorts of stuff. Things happen. And certainly as a result of this isolation, it's been pretty intense, and I have felt at times to be emotionally illiterate. Maybe slightly less emotionally illiterate than I used to be, but somewhat embarrassed and feeling shame about how poorly I've known how to manage some of these difficulties. It's sort of like flailing around with accusations and judgments and blame and criticism and personal attacks, and yeah, a little bit of that was against me, but a lot of that shamefully was me, and just in some upset and not really knowing what to do, just flailing around and hoping for the best. And thankfully, fingers crossed, sort of barely at times, but luckily still hanging in there. But at times it has felt like, this is nuts. Anyway, since then, partly as a result of that, and partly just because it was well overdue for me to do some research into it, I've been looking into something called Nonviolent Communication. And it's a model put together by Marshall Rosenberg. He started his work in the 1960s, but really developed it through the 70s and 80s and became this warrior of peace around the world. He came up with this model for how to deal with conflict and reconciliation and worked in all of the major hotspots around the world, whether it was the Middle East or South Africa or civil rights organizations in the United States. He was traveling, working with world leaders and diplomats and negotiators all around the world in some of the most difficult things because his model is very interesting. And it's different. It's a different model of how to deal with conflict than the standard model. My evaluation of the standard model is that basically I want X. You want Y. Well, I think you're wrong for wanting Y, and I think I'm right for wanting X, and let's have a battle. And I will come up with all sorts of moral judgments about why you're wrong for wanting what you want. And I'll come up with all sorts of moral justifications about why I'm right for wanting what I want. But the truth is that when you've got one side that wants A, I want ice cream, and the other side wants broccoli. They want broccoli, I want ice cream. Those are the two options. We've got option A, we've got option B. That's it. At which point you're in a power struggle. And you can take this from the personal in terms of the issues you have with your romantic partner or with your family or with a child. But you can expand that to organizations at work that you deal with. You can look at communities that you're involved in. But we can also look at the whole socioeconomic mess that we're in right now in terms of, whether it's Democrats and Republicans, whether it's gun control, gun rights, whether it's abortion, whether it's feminism. Any of the major hotbed issues of today are fundamentally about two sides yelling and screaming at each other. One saying, I want A, and the other one saying, I want B. And you're an idiot for wanting A, and I'm right for wanting B. And everybody who wants A is an idiot, and everybody who wants B is brilliant, and they're our side. And what we've got is a power struggle that we are going to try and win the battle. We'll win the election. We'll win whatever it is. We're going to win this little argument. And then we're going to get our way by threat, intimidation, or overthrow. We're going to get our way, and then we'll get our option. I want A, I get A. And I'm just going to force A down your throat whether you like it or not. Okay, that's the model. It's not working very well. Even if you get your way, the other side, is not very happy about it. They're basically beaten into submission, or they resent it, or they find some negotiation and there's a deal done, some transactional thing that might involve, sex or jewelry or something in order to get it. But it's not like anybody's actually bought into it. There's no connection. In fact, there's zero connection. There's a disconnection between the two sides. At the extreme, what we end up with is this dehumanization. All Democrats are idiots. All Republicans are idiots. All gun people are nuts. All people who want to take away our guns are like socialists or some nonsense. So we've dehumanized the other side, and there's zero connection. Anyway, what I've learned is that you can take that from the socioeconomic piece or the personal piece or like issues like the Middle East. And that's one option, just the power struggle. And then Marshall Rosenberg basically came up with another model. And what does this have to do with meditation? Well, in one way, I don't want to go into too much detail about the model. I mean, I will share it with you. So it's known as Nonviolent Communication model, sometimes also known as the Compassionate Communication model, Marshall Rosenberg. And the model is relatively simple, except it's extremely difficult to do because we've been trained in a completely different way of doing things. The model is that you observe what are the actions that are taking place right now that are causing you to have feelings. And then you observe what those feelings are and you notice what those feelings are. So you just observe what the action is and you notice what the feeling is that arises as a result of that action. So, for example, trivial example. So you leave the toilet seat up. And the other person says, oh, you're so inconsiderate. You left the toilet seat up. So what's actually happening there is, yes, the toilet seat is the action that has happened. That is the fact. The fact is the toilet seat was left up, and that created a feeling. And that feeling might be frustration, anger, sadness, all sorts of stuff might be coming up from that. And anyway, so we try and just see the action and the feeling. And then, of course, our tendency is to then judge and blame and create all sorts of interpretation about what it all means. Well, in the NVC model, the Nonviolent Communication model, try not to do that. We don't have interpretation, blame, judgment. We simply observe the action that happened, what actually occurred, and we notice the feeling that arose. And then what we try and do is identify what is the need, value, or desire that's underpinning that feeling. The feeling arises, like some people might see a toilet seat left. Like if you left the toilet seat up for me, I wouldn't get upset about it. Because I don't have any of the needs, desires, or values associated with the toilet seat being up. Maybe because I'm a guy. In some cultures, they don't have toilet seats. So I think it's a whole other issue. So they wouldn't get upset about it either. But you get upset about it, perhaps, because, or whatever it is you get upset about it, because of your underlying needs, desires, and feelings. So in this model, instead of just trying to be right, and argue and fight and scream and yell and blame and judge and intimidate and threaten, instead of doing all those things, we simply try and observe the action, observe the feeling that arises, and identify the needs underneath it, and then make a request about what it is that we want in order to fulfill our needs, desires, and values. Now, sometimes that request might not be granted, but here's the thing, is that in this model, we're not immediately jumping to blame, judgment, value judgments, and moralistic judgments about the other person whose actions caused us to have certain feelings. Now, this stuff is not easy. It's not easy to observe actions and then separate it from our feelings or interpretations or judgments. That takes a certain amount of training. It's also extremely difficult, in my experience, to really identify what is the underlying need, desire, or value that has caused that feeling to arise. But often it's to do with desiring things like security or connection, safety. There are all sorts of underlying needs, desires, values. People who like guns, they probably like guns from a point of view of some sense of safety. They feel like this is important for their personal safety. People who don't like guns because they have a feeling that it's not good for public safety. Underlying the huge, like yelling and screaming and fighting, is actually a common set of human needs, desires, and values. What we end up disagreeing about is the strategy with which we can implement or fulfill those needs, values, and desires. But underlying everybody is a common humanity of a very common set of needs, values, and desires that we can all relate to. Now, that isn't to say this stuff is easy. It's difficult. It takes training. I am not good at this. I'm going to spend the rest of my life, I think, trying to work on this stuff. I think it's an incredibly valuable, useful model. It's the opposite of what I've always done. I've always tried to win. I've always tried to be right, be more intelligent, better arguer, all that kind of stuff, and just fight the fight and win. Or if I can't win, then I'll make the other person look stupid or something like that. Or walk away. run away because, I can't get my way. So I'm just going to run away. So that's been my approach. And so now I have to, it hasn't been very good. And there is an alternative. I don't have to do it that way. I can try something else. One of the things that's very difficult is separating the action from our judgment about the action. Rosenberg has an interesting quote. Sorry. Still trying to work out this stuff. There we go. So his quote is, I can handle your telling me what I did or didn't do. And I can handle your interpretations. But please, don't mix the two. So you left the toilet seat here. That's an action. Or you didn't put the toilet seat down. Whatever. You did or you didn't do something. That's fine. And then there is an interpretation. I feel you don't respect me. Or I feel sad or frustrated when that happens. Because I feel not cared for. And I want to feel cared for. My need is to feel cared for, to be noticed, to be remembered, to be important to you. Now, some of you are probably much more skillful at the NVC model than I am, and will know all sorts of ways in which I've just got that wrong. But that's roughly right. So when you confuse the action with your interpretation and you go, you left the toilet seat up, you don't like me, you are confusing the two. Like there is an action, there is a feeling, and there is an underlying need that's not being met. But you're now thrusting a judgment upon somebody. Now you can do that. Who knows? You might even be right. But it's not a path that's valuable. Being right in this is not the path to go down. Because being right means somebody else is wrong, and there's no value ever down that road. You'll never get anywhere. You'll never get connection. You'll never get to resolve conflict in anything like a civilized, helpful, compassionate way. So you can do that, but it's not a path that leads to anything good and can lead to very bad things. Or you can try this other approach, which is just to simply see the action, see the feeling that arises for it, and identify the need underneath it. Now, this is difficult stuff. This is very difficult stuff. So difficult, in fact, Krishnamurti, the Indian philosopher, said, the ability to observe without evaluating is the highest form of human intelligence. So being able to observe the action, observe the feeling without rushing to judgment, without evaluating it, being able to separate those two things is the highest form of human intelligence. So what does this have to do with meditation? Okay, I'm getting there. So here are the building blocks of nonviolent communication of this model, which is focus. You have to be focused on the right thing. You've got to be focused not on being right, but you're focused on trying to work towards connection. So it's not about who's right and wrong. It's about identifying what is the underlying needs here that are causing these feelings. So focus on the right thing. Then non-judgment is this huge piece. It's the avoidance of the evaluation, trying to simply see the action and the feeling, and then identifying the underlying needs. Now, not easy to do, but that's what we're moving towards, is this non-judgment. You have to have awareness. You have to be able to identify your feelings. And feelings are not things like, in this case, feelings are not like, I feel you don't care, or I feel betrayed, or I feel unloved, because that's not actually a feeling. I know you might, I'll explain. Those aren't actually feelings, they are actually thoughts that you have about what somebody else is doing. If you say, I feel unloved, you're actually thinking that somebody else doesn't love you, that they're not loving you. What you might actually feel as a feeling, which is much more vulnerable and difficult and harder to face perhaps, but the truth is that you feel sad or you feel scared and you're afraid. So somebody does X and you feel scared because you think that means maybe they don't love you, or you think that they no longer value you. So there's a difference between that feeling, I feel you don't care. Actually, you think the other person doesn't care as a result of this feeling you have of fear, sadness, anger, frustration, something like that. So it requires tremendous awareness of feelings, which is difficult. Most of us aren't that aware of our feelings. We're aware of something uncomfortable, and then we immediately put interpretation onto it and blame somebody for it. Blame ourselves for it or blame somebody else for it, instead of being able to see the feeling as it is. So awareness is such a key piece of this. And then if you want to get really advanced with this NVC stuff, the real key is curiosity. Because when somebody's attacking you, or somebody's upset, or somebody's in conflict, the key is to get really curious. Instead of thrusting onto them what you think is going on, or you think they're wrong for feeling the way they are, or wrong for wanting what they want, you get curious to try and really identify the feeling they're having, and really curious to try to identify, with their help, to really try to identify what is the underlying need, desire, or value. And that takes curiosity. You're not judging them. You're not trying to make them wrong. You're not trying to make yourself right. You're just curious as to what's really going on here. Well, here we go. So these are the building blocks of meditation. Focus, non-judgment, curiosity, and non-striving. So there are a couple of differences. I mean, awareness I didn't put down here, but awareness is what we are developing in meditation. We are developing this skill of starting to notice what's going on in the moment. So we're noticing our feelings, we're noticing our thoughts. So awareness is like, that's a precondition of what we're doing here. But the building blocks behind that awareness are focus, non-judgment, being able to see the moment for what it is without judging it. Curiosity, to explore the moment, explore our breath, explore our feelings, explore the physical sensations of our body with this openness and curiosity. And then we throw in non-striving, which is we're not trying to change anything. Well, in nonviolent communication, they are trying to create something. But actually they're doing it without an agenda as to what that thing is, which is quite interesting. They are trying to create a bit of magic. And the magic happens when you identify the common need, the common human connection between people. And then something magical happens when you both, somebody's pro-gun rights and anti-guns, when they come together and realize they actually have common human desires and common human needs, then there is a possibility of communication and dialogue. So they do have that agenda that they are trying to create a better world, but they don't have an agenda as to what that's going to look like. So there is a similarity there with the non-striving. Now, we're running out of time, but just in case you're interested in knowing more, I'm starting their courses and I'm looking at this stuff because I need it desperately. So there's Rosenberg set up the Center for Nonviolent Communication, which is cnvc.org. He wrote a very fantastic book, Nonviolent Communication. And then recently, a meditation teacher called Oren Sofer, who studied with Marshall Rosenberg, set up, he's written a book actually on the mindfulness approach to nonviolent communication. So he's really tying in meditation and showing how the two are closely linked. Anyway, my intention is not really to thrust that down your throat. It's just a model, but just to show that the skills we learn in meditation of focus, non-judgment, curiosity, and this development of awareness are the skills required for this model, for making a world in which conflict doesn't have to result in anger and yelling and screaming and blaming, but it can result in connection, dialogue, and even constructive solutions to some of our problems, which heaven knows I need in my personal life, and our society needs, to try and find a better approach to how we deal with some of our difficult problems. Okay, back to camera. Okay, heavy subjects. Maybe you'd have all preferred to have talked to each other and actually had to listen to each other. My point is simply that meditation can help you create that connection. And although I don't think meditation helps specifically in the conflict thing, it might help prevent conflict, but I haven't found it to be terribly helpful in conflict for me. But now that I have a model, I realize that actually all the skills we learn in meditation can be applied to the model. I hope that's vaguely helpful. Much more importantly, let's do our final meditation. So I'm going to finish with a loving kindness meditation. Invite you all to sit such that you're comfortable but alert. Take a nice deep breath in. And let it all the way out. And now allow your breathing to return to normal. And just invite you to bring to mind the person that you love the most easily. To fully open your heart towards them. And then see if you can open your heart a little bit more. Allow yourself to experience this incredible capacity you have for kindness and love. Sending it at this person that you care about. And just repeating your phrases, whatever they are, in whatever language you choose. For me, tonight, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May your life be filled with joy. Just repeating those phrases and opening your heart. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with joy. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with joy. And for the second part of this exercise, trying to send ourselves that same level of kindness, generosity, and love. As much as you can. And if you have resistance, that's fine. Just notice it. It's okay. Try not to beat yourself up about the fact that you find this difficult. Apply some kindness to it and just recognize many of us find this difficult. Just do your best, and at the very least, just keep repeating your phrases to yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May my life be filled with joy. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May my life be filled with joy. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May my life be filled with joy. For the third part of this exercise, I invite you to bring to mind what's known as the neutral person. That's somebody that's in your life, but you don't know them very well. You don't know them well enough to know if you like them or you don't like them. It might be a neighbor you see walking around. It could be the UPS delivery person. Somebody that's checkout at the supermarket. You don't know them, but you know that they struggle just like you. And we're just practicing opening our heart for the sake of it. Just to practice this incredible capacity we have. Sending them all of your love. And repeating your phrases to them. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May your life be filled with joy. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May your life be filled with joy. For the fourth part of this exercise, we try and stretch ourselves a little bit. The idea is to make this a little harder for ourselves, to just test us and perhaps find our edge by bringing to mind what's known as the difficult person. Somebody in your life who you just find somewhat irritating or annoying. It's not to bring up intense feelings, somebody you really, really don't like, just somebody that you find hard to love. Recognizing, though, that they are human and flawed and make mistakes, just like you. And they are also worthy of love in spite of their mistakes, just like you. So we're going to practice seeing if we can sending them as much love as we can. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just finding your edge, doing your best. Not having a big conversation about it, just seeing what you can do. And at the very least, just repeating your phrases. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May your life be filled with joy. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May your life be filled with joy. For the final part of the exercise, we're just trying to realize that we have this much larger capacity than we probably even realize. Opening our heart to all beings. And we're not trying to get too caught up in the technicalities, logistics, or impossibility of this. It's just a heartfelt desire from the bottom of our soul that these things could be true. Knowing that they can't, but wishing they were. Opening our heart and wishing all beings well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with joy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with joy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings live with joy. And invite you to take a deep breath in and let it out. And just start to connect yourself to your body, noticing the big sensations, the little sensations, noticing how your body is moving as you breathe. Maybe wiggling your fingers, wiggling your toes, making sure you're fully connected back into your body. And when you're ready, open your eyes, connect yourself back into the room. So another week down, week 8. Thank you so much for your support, still sticking at this. I'm very impressed and humbled. So thank you for joining me on this journey. The technology of it, but also the meditation piece. Really appreciate it. And if I may give you a little challenge, is try once a day for the rest of this week. Try to really listen. Try to listen to somebody, just one conversation. Just try to listen to somebody as if you were meditating. So putting all of your focus in, every time your mind goes somewhere, whether it starts to judge or it just wanders or whatever happens, just notice it and then see if you can refocus. And they may or may not notice, but over time they will notice. And you can be one of those people who makes a difference by creating that connection. So that's the challenge for the week. And just know that if you keep working at this stuff, keep working on developing our non-judgment, our ability of awareness, our ability of curiosity and focus. We're developing other skills too that can be valid in so many other ways. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and have a great week. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May your life be filled with joy. Maybe I'll see you one of these mornings this week. Otherwise, I'll be back here, same time, same place, next Wednesday to talk about happiness. Thanks very much, everybody.